Chapter 91. Who's Afraid of Losing? Within the 29 heaven and earth vertical and horizontal grand formation. Boom, boom. A loud noise shook the grand formation. And it's so powerful that it shook my grand formation. Guhai's face sank. Sovereign Genjin. It shouldn't be. He's only a PQ-1ing. The Footil god frowned. Just take a look and you'll know, Guhai said in a deep voice, probing his hand. Guhai gave a slight wave. In the distance, the rolling fog rumbled apart, and the grand formation cracked open with a huge opening. Rumble. A gap, if it was a canyon, slowly appeared, and the sound of the broken formation from the outside world abruptly stopped. Buzz. Steeply, the large formation cracked open, seeing the outside world situation in that direction, and the outside world also instantly saw the inside. But it was a huge flying boat, on top of which stood a group of strong people from the Genjin sect, and in mid-air stood the green-clothed Aoshun, with a large number of troops at the back. Aoshun was grasping a long sword in his hand, and was coldly looking at the interior. Finally open the formation. Heh, Aoshun laughed coldly, looking down the canyon-like gap towards the interior. My Genjin sect, 100,000 mountains destroyed. Chu Chen's face changed as he said. The Gungjin Patriarch also had an angry look on his face, and he raised his head to look at the sky. But when he saw the chi luck in the sky, there was still as little as 30 to 40% left, and he also had an indignant look on his face. That's the saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger is dead, nailed to the mountain wall. A Genjin sect elder stared in anger. The death of the saber-toothed tiger caused everyone's eyelids to flutter furiously, including Aoshun. One must know that the saber-toothed tiger was mobilizing the power of the Genjin world, and already had the power of the heaven-opening palace, but it was actually nailed to death. Aoshun is also the heaven-opening palace. Naturally, he was particularly grave. Instead, the Gungjin Patriarch's gaze was gathered towards the Gungjin Palace. It was because Guhai and his party were standing there, coldly looking at themselves. Huang Fu Chaoj, you're so cruel. You're so cruel to exterminate my entire clan. The Gungjin Patriarch saw Huang Fu Chaoj at a glance. Huang Fu Chaoj's eyes showed an ice gold color as he said, Genjin Patriarch, if you didn't break into my divine Footil's dynasty, would you not be in trouble today? Heaven's justice cycles and retribution. The sins that you have done, you will have to pay back in the end. Aoshun stood at the front, coldly looking at Huang Fu Chaoj. In the past, outside of Divine Footil's city, Huang Fu Chaoj mobilized the power of Divine Footil's dynasty and Aoshun in a duel. And in the end, Huang Fu Chaoj actually won slightly, and Aoshun still holds a grudge. Now, seeing Huang Fu Chaoj again, naturally, his face showed an icy cold color, to wash away the previous shame. Guhai, it's Guhai. It's true that he set up the grand formation. Chu Chen steeply let out a cry of alarm. Everyone's gazes, however, suddenly looked at Guhai together. Genjin Patriarch had never seen Guhai, but Aoshun had seen it. In the past, Love Flower Valley, although favored by King Lu Yong, Aoshun did not take it for granted. But instead, there was more than one icy cold. It was just that King Lu Yong had given his word, and he did not have more than one mouth to feed. That's because I don't want to be part of his rebellion. So, just send the Unsheng to kill me. My wife shielded me from the disaster and died under the orders of King Lu Yong. What a sincere treatment. What a sincere treatment. HMPH. So, you went against the Emperor at every turn, eliminating Yingju's Qi and forcing the Emperor to set up a state. Aoshun said in a cold voice. Aoshun, Sovereign Genjin, Chu Chen, and the others all sucked in cold air. It really was him. It really was him. He was the one who had forced Emperor Lu Yong to set up a country. He was the one who had caused the Great Ying dynasty to be downgraded to an imperial dynasty. And now the second step of destroying the Gungjin sect. Every step has caused Emperor Liu Yong to suffer heavy losses And the third step. What is the third step? Mr. Mo is right. This ancient sea. It's too terrifying, Chu Chen said, as he sucked in a cold breath from the side. In the past, in Chu Chen's eyes, what could Gu Hai be? It was just a zither player who could play the zither. The strength wasn't even as good as his own. Why did Mr. Mo rate him so highly? Chu Chen had always been unconvinced. But now, it wasn't a matter of whether he was convinced or not, but rather, this Gu Hai's methods had caused King Liu Yang's losses to be too heavy. In just a short steps, it had caused King Liu Yang's vitality to be greatly injured, and there was a third step. This Gu Hai cannot be kept, absolutely cannot be kept, Sovereign Zhengjin said with an ugly face. Aoshen was naturally clear about how harmful the ancient sea was. The greater the ability, the greater the harm. Since he came today, he must remove a harm for the king. But saw the interior of the big formation. Steeply countless sword chi appeared out of thin air. A black and pressurized piece, floating in the air, slowly in the midst of the 10,000 swords. A grey-robed swordsman, Cloud Beast, appeared. Dokuro. Gu Chen's eyes steeply lit up. The Doka Oku swordsman had appeared again. If it wasn't for King Liu Yang's hand, you would have already been palmed to death by Me Wangfu, right? Ha 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 ha. Gu Hai stepped and jumped on Dokuro-ku. Maneuvering Dokuro-ku, he coldly looked at Aoshen on the opposite side. Dragon Prince, don't fall for his tricks. He's provoking you. Patriarch Zhengjin called out. Aoshen, however, took a look at the huge array in front of him. The interior seemed to be a world of its own, the space enlarged by countless. It was with this formation that the saber-toothed tiger was destroyed. Aoshen said in a deep voice. HMPH, Golden Dam Realm. How about you come out and watch me crush you to death? Aoshen said in a cold voice. Although there was fire in his heart, he could also see that Gu Hai was provoking himself, and he forced down his anger to stare at Gu Hai dead on. I know you guys have scruples. How about this, Prince Aoshen? Ha, Crown Prince. In this case, I'll give you a chance that you can escape. How about this great formation of mine? Only the bones of the formation will remain. How about the great formation is withdrawn? Gu Hai laughed out loud. With a wave of his probing hand, rumble. Steeply, the clouds of the grand formation suddenly gathered towards the top, slowly, forming a super huge net in general. It was as if there were 29 pillars of clouds, each vertically and horizontally, wrapping up the entire Zhengjin Sex, 100,000 mountains. A curved chessboard in general, with a huge skeleton in the middle. It seemed to have withdrawn a large part of the formation. Aoshen looked at Gu Hai, who was standing on top of Dokuro-ku, with a raised eyebrow. In that case, what else do you have to worry about? Once you lose to me, you can still escape at any time, can't you? There are exits everywhere now. So what are you still worried about? I'm giving you a chance to die. Do you still dare? Gu Hai laughed coldly. But you said it in such a grandiose manner. The crowd knew what Gu Hai was planning to do, but at this moment, they wouldn't say it out loud. Instead, they coldly looked at Aoshen. This scene, for Aoshen, was a disgrace. A Jindan realm challenging himself, and saying that he was worried that he wouldn't be able to escape in the end in defeat, and he even left the path of escape for you, asking if you dare to go. Gu Hai, you can be arrogant, but arrogance has to have limits. In that case, it's you who don't know how to die. Aoshen coldly said. Then, do you still dare? Gu Hai laughed coldly. At this moment, Gu Hai was also in a hurry inside. Hurry up. The appearance of Doka-oku is burning money. If you delay a little more, Doka-oku will fall apart. A heavy sword without a blade. A great coincidence. Doka-oku gave a cold shout. The sky full of sword chi steeply condensed into a super one iron heavy sword that was 1,000 feet large and met it. Boom! With a loud bang, Ao Shun's sword dipper and the Zhuan iron heavy sword shattered together. Ao Shun's figure lurched. Gu Hai's pupils shrank. This Ao Shun was really powerful, even more powerful than the saber-toothed tiger that mobilized the power of the world a few days ago. The Zhuan iron heavy sword, it was actually equal to it. Ao Shun, however, his face sank. He was actually knocked back in his own form, and he was the one who killed the saber-toothed tiger with the strength of the heaven opening. Palace, mountains, rivers, grass and trees, all can be swords, Dokoroku said with a deep drink once again. Boom! Steeply, the move of sniping saber-toothed tiger in the past reappeared, on top of the earth. A sword of mountains and rivers rose up from the ground, a sword of the earth as if it was a heavy sword of metaphysical iron, stabbing straight ahead. Boom, 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 boom. Ao Shun quickly resisted this strong earth sword again and again. The sword of mountains and rivers, too ferocious. The impact of Ao Shun retreated back and forth. The long sword in his hand was shocked to the hand a numbness. What? Impossible. Ao Shun was surprised in the midst of fleeing in a sorry state. If one were to go, it would simply be looking for death. How is it possible? What kind of formation is this? Ao Shun is the palace of open heaven. Is this how the saber-toothed tiger was killed? Gu Hai was also anxious in his heart, because Gu Hai felt that the spirit stones of the grand formation were getting less and less, and although Ao Shun was in a sorry state, but he was not injured. Although Gu Hai was anxious in his heart, but his face didn't show it. Instead, he revealed a cold smile and said, "What? Can't do it. If you're scared, you can run away. Run away. Ha 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 ha. Escape. In front of a Jindan realm. Flee." Ao Shun couldn't do it, but Dokoroku's sword intent was too strong. Ao Shun was really worried that if he was not careful, he would be seriously injured by the sword of mountain and river. Ong! Ao Shun let out a roar. He was transformed into a 1,000-foot purple dragon with a huge body. And with a sudden fling, he blew up countless swords of the surrounding mountains and rivers. But there was still a large number of stabs on top of the dragon's body. Ang ang ang! The 1,000-foot purple dragon let out a long cry in pain. It was very tempting to leave this big formation, but unwillingly, being scolded by a Jindan realm for escaping. One's really running away. It's not the end yet, I can't run. Gu Hai's heart became more and more anxious, but still steadied himself. Dokoroku spoke again. 9 days ago, that saber-toothed tiger wasn't worthy of letting me draw my sword. This time, you are worthy. You are worthy. A sentence that startled the faces of a group of Jengjin sect disciples in the distance. Only now did they Twilight realize that this swordsman still had a long sword in his hand, and had never drawn it. Without drawing his sword, he had forced Ao Shun to be in a sorry state, and now he was going to draw his sword. The crowd was in a state of shock, gay because the power of the sword of mountains and rivers was too terrifying. Was this just a move that the swordsman couldn't see eye to eye with? Ao Shun's face also changed wildly. However, he saw that Dokoroku slowly gripped the hilt of the sword with his right hand, and bit by bit, he pulled out a bronze longsword. Thus, when he pulled out a finger's length, steeply, the temperature of the void dropped for a while, as if it was frozen by this sword chi, and a cold flying snow fell. But when it was drawn out to the length of 2 fingers, above the earth in the 4 directions, frost immediately formed. Mount, anyone who has seen it is dead. Gu Hai in a heart anxiety. Big array spirit stone immediately light. Want to defeat Ao Shun? Obviously impossible. Can only soldier dangerous move. The surrounding air temperature plummeted, naturally, not only caused by Dokoroku cushion drawing his sword, but mainly by his own manipulation of the environment, simulated by the big formation. My name, Dorgo Kurinai. The Dokoroku cushion said indifferently, sword born to die. Run, The Zhengjin patriarch outside the formation shouted in horror. Not only Aoshun, the crowd of strong people outside also felt a boundless killing intent in general. Dorgo Kurenai's bland words seemed to contain a destructive magical power in general, pressuring a crowd of cultivators to be terrified again and again, because Dorgo Kurenai has that capital. Just the sword of mountain and river let Aoshun in a sorry state. This has not drawn the sword. Now draw the sword. Is not it a death alarm? Buzz 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 buzz. The long sword of Dokrokusha was drawn faster and faster. The temperature round was getting colder and colder. The sky was bright, and the swords of the endless mountains and rivers in the four directions were trembling, as if they were worshipping Dokrokusha's long sword that was about to be unsheathed. The feeling of death, straight to the heart. Aoshun let out a steep roar. Couldn't take it anymore, not by the sword intent, but the psychological pressure was too much. Putting his best foot forward, boom. Aoshun broke away from the sword that filled the sky with mountains and rivers. Who. Turning into a gale, Aoshun instantly shot off into the distance, fleeing away in haste, turning his eyes to the sky and disappearing, barely chanting. The sword is out of its sheath. Run, quick, flying boat, hurry up, you're all dead. Chu Chen shouted in terror, just as the crowd of Gungjin sect disciples were in a state of panic. Boom, the doctor along with the 29 heaven and earth verticaler burst apart. It turned into an endless cloud, resembling a mushroom cloud that shot up into the sky. In the distance, as Aoshun fled, he turned his head to look and saw a huge mushroom cloud appear in the distant sky, and his face changed in fright. Dokuro. Aoshun's face showed a hint of horror. Without dropping his head, he once again quickly blazed away, reporting back to Emperor Liu Yong. And below the mushroom cloud, cough 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 cough, Master, what a big smoke and dust, it's choking me to death. Gu Chen shouted in the smoke and dust. Gu Hai landed in front of the Zhengjin Palace. Yu, finally at the last minute, scared away Aoshun, otherwise we would have been miserable. Gu Hai let out a long breath and laughed bitterly. To billion upper-grade spirit stones, a country's accumulation, you spent all of it. The faux stone god said blankly from the side. It wasn't just the faux stone god who was bewildered. The group of Zhengjin sect disciples who were preparing to escape were slightly stunned and looked blankly at the dense fog rolling inside in front of them. Dokoroku's drawn his sword and exploded himself, a Gungjin sect disciple said blankly. Oh no, we've all been tricked. The Gungjin sect master's face changed abruptly.